for tuning in today. Thank you for taking some time out of your very busy schedule as an educator. We surely appreciate you. This is another small episode of what we're calling specific drip. We're finding positive things teachers do, spreading them around, talking to them about how they got it going in their classroom and how other teachers might benefit from hearing their story. So I'm joined today by a fantastic teacher at Northeast Middle School, Sara Kelly. Thank you for joining us, Sara. And I'm going to have Sara tell us a little bit about her process. I'm going to set it up because I visited her class and we went in and we were observing students, and she was leading them through a first read. And we know that they were working on this little project along the point of the unit that they were calling project-based learning. And they were going to write to some local community members. I'm going to let her tell it even better than I do. And there'd be some real world learning going on because her students weren't simply using their voices just for the classroom, but actually out there in the community and in the public. And what really was neat to have happen is that one of the people you wrote to wrote back, not only wrote back, but I think visited and then brought pizza as a huge motivator that students really feel rewarded when that happens. But will you tell us a little bit, Ms. Kelly, kind of about the setup of that project, what you were going for, and then kind of what made it special?
Yeah, it was at the end of the unit on love and loss. I was looking at the different end of unit projects, and we had just done narrative writing, so we had done a full writing essay, and I thought I want to try something a little different. So I looked at the project-based learning, and sorry, it was my phone. And the project was to write to communities and organizations that have, given to the community that you felt needed recognition, you'd like to recognize. And so we set it up with, I showed them how to research in Google for nonprofits and community organizations. And they looked through the lists and saw some of the things that they did. And both of my classes each wrote a different organization. The period that you're talking about wrote to the Hall Family Foundation. And we looked at their different projects that they have supported within the community and also outside of our community. And I had a letter template that I put together that they filled out. And then we hand wrote those letters. Normally I type, but we hand wrote those letters this time. And I sent it to the organization with an introductory letter from myself. And they reached out. Actually, I got one of the letters right here. They sent letters back to the students. So they called and said, we read them in our meeting and it just made us smile and cry. And we're going to write back to you. So they wrote back individual letters to the students. I think a different person wrote to each student. Wow. And then they organized this, they wanted to come up and visit. So they organized a pizza party. And that happened last week. And it was the president of the Hall Family Foundation that ended up attending. And she came and, we had the pizza and we just sat and she asked each student, what they wanted to do. What are some changes that they would like to see within the school and the community. And they sat and they gave very, very thoughtful, respectful answers to her questions and asked her also some questions like, what kind of education do you need in order to work for the foundation? And it was wonderful to watch the interaction. Some of my students that are a little bit shyer, even like the comment came out, and what was really wonderful about it is that she's bilingual. She was born, she was the first one born in the United States, but her whole family was from Mexico. So she would speak in Spanish and English back and forth, and like the kids loved that.
Wow. So even by the kids asking about what does it take to work here, sounds like they were hypothesizing, like maybe for the first couple times, I could do this, or maybe this is something I want to do with my future, or maybe they would take me, or how do I get in here? And I can tell you, when we went to Hallmark and did the project I was so in love with, that that's exactly what we were trying to do. Like, to hear that question and see people seeing themselves and people that were employed there, or like you're saying with bilingual skills, that they may even think, wait, I have bilingual skills, I could do this, and do you think that was starting to happen with your kids? Did you see a lot of evidence of that?
I did, because what was interesting was they were talking through the different, like some of the different education levels that a lot of the workers have. For example, her executive assistant has a degree in anthropology. She has a degree in business. The lady who organized the whole thing just has a high school degree. And so I've spent a lot of time like talking to them the importance of, I'm going to hound them, even though I don't have them after 8th grade. I'm going to hound them about getting that high school diploma at the very least. Go through the signature programs, get those certificates, get some sort of post-secondary, because you have the ability to go so far if you just complete your education. Just this is the first step, to complete to go somewhere in the future. So that you just kind of saw like the kids that had openly said that they were just, I'm going to drop out, like that there was a bit of a change when they started talking about what it is they really wanted to do in the future. They kind of like they really listened. It wasn't just Miss Kelly harping at them. It was somebody else talking to them about the importance of getting some sort of degree.
Fantastic. Well, it was Miss Kelly creating the experience that created the situation that caused the nuanced thinking that, it happens. So I encourage and praise you in a lot for the ability to put that in the middle of a crazy school year and have it become such a memory. Because I think other things that happen with these kind of projects, guys, is all the days become kind of a blur when we try to think back on our own education, and we remember the projects, the field trips, the big moments that we really experienced, or the things we prepared for, the big project we presented or something like that the most. And then I think that's what we build our value from as we go on. It proves to us I can do things like that. And another reason project based is so cool, like you said, you see different sides of people that you didn't know they were holding out on you, or hadn't felt really motivated in a while, or really hadn't felt inspired. And so many people that are not giving us that have it. They're just not seeing it in the traditional assignment as like a worthy, a reason to contribute all that energy. They may be doing something else with that energy for their own creative pursuit later on, artists or music makers or whoever. The greatest thing about project based is that you get to bring some of those creative elements into the class, and then you show off a little bit of that in front of your peers, and suddenly class becomes a little bit more cool, a little more hip, a little more modern, because the students are trying to be cool and hip and modern all day, and then so what if they had to do that kind of on purpose or for a project, and do it together? So that's fantastic. Tell me a couple other student outcomes that you were really pleased about. Like, what did it mean to them to have a person who they don't know at a business write them back? How did that go over?
It was exciting. We've written letters in the past. We wrote corporations. Only one corporation wrote back and sent something. So we've tried it with very little success. So the fact they had big bragging rights because they were the only class that got that
Yeah,
feedback, got
nice.
that response, and they were very, very excited about it for that reason. And I like to do letter writing. I think it's a good form of communication to learn.
Hmm.
Um, we wrote 7th grade schools across the United States, and we'll do a teacher appreciation letter in May. So it just, continue to build on that. I'm trying, I've scaffolded it with the templates, and I'm trying to lessen the template and see what they are able to do. But I do want them, the correct formatting and the
Hmm.
correct salutations and sign offs and everything.
Sure.
Um,
Be
so
business ready. That way, when you turn that letter in for a real job application or whatever, you're not just immediately put in another pile, and that unfortunately that could be a first sorting of, what is this? This is not even close to the business letter format we would want to see. Let's put it over there, and you never know, because there's so many applicants that having the right look is also like the first part. So I remember that very well. I would want all my students' scholarship essays to be like as clean as they could be. Like, let's learn all that, because they're still going to judge on something else that we don't know. But any of this obvious surface level stuff that we can work on, let's become masters of that, and that. So that's so neat. Maybe that's why they got more back from that business. Maybe it was the nature of the business and their philosophy at Hall Family. But even so, getting one back like that has got to be really cool for your class, like a really neat part of the story. And then to meet the people in person, right? It's another really cool way that I think you've extended the learning. So do you have anything brewing based on what you've done with this? Do you have any other neat goals for project-based? Or we're kind of finishing the year with testing, but is there any other kind of finale type of thing that you have in mind?
Not so much with businesses. We are working on presenting. They're going to, I have ESL students. And so speaking is a big component and really speaking in front of people.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're working on for the end of the years, like just little chunks at a time, is a book talk. They've picked a book. I have multiple books that they can choose from my shelf, or they went to the library and got some. And they're going to have some sort of creative way of presenting it, either a PowerPoint or a poster or something like that, just to get them up and talking and really reflecting on what they have read. I've got like a little, again, I'm all about templates. Just like highlights, not giving away the whole story, not just summarizing, but just a hook to get other readers interested in possibly wanting to read that book as well.
And they've known from the start that they're going to share these with each other, right? And so again, I can imagine the energy of, oh, what am I going to choose? And just if you're listening and you've never tried a project like that, it changes the dynamic a whole lot. If I know I have to pick something that I'm going to share with it's just like show and tell, except you're basically picking it from the items in the school day or something. But it also, teenagers and middle schoolers are very curious of like, how do I show what I'm into by one of my choices? I better really think about this and make it. And before, they never decided to care too much about one of the readings. Now they're looking over like a whole list of things, 20 things to skim through to pick one. And whether or not, we realize that we've kind of tricked them into doing about 5 times the reading as if we just picked the one for them, right? Because they have to go through this decision-making process. And then that is so authentic that you never know. They might have read 20 at home. Or, I always told them, you don't have to pick until the end of the week. You have all week to think about it. And what was really neat is people would. We get closer on Thursday. I'd remind you, tomorrow's the day you sink your teeth into your choice. We're not going to change it after that. And I want you to tell me why you chose it. And we're going to stay with it. And if you forget why you chose it, I'm going to remind you and we're going to stay with it, But I really loved when they had the choice, seeing all the different things that they would decide to do that I never would have picked for them. So that's another really powerful way to invoke choice here at the end of the year. Well, thank you, Ms. Kelly. It's been wonderful talking with you. Let's do this. Let's go out on one small bit of wisdom you think you may have garnered in some of your projects this year. What would you advise to a person that wanted to have similar success?
To try until you get successful at it. I've done this for a long time. I was a choir teacher, and so everything was very much project based for the first 17 years of my teaching experience. Was a lot. Obviously, it's very public and open, and I would eventually learn how to convince students to want to make those choices instead of relying on me. And sometimes the first time it doesn't go well, you maybe missed a step. Don't give up. For me, the project base is really it's that application that is so necessary in learning, where they can apply everything that you have taught them for that entire quarter or that entire couple weeks or whatever, however long you're spending preparing that project, and learn to release it to them as well, because it's so easy to just do everything for them and they just copy. And there's nothing wrong with teacher modeling, but you have to learn to release it to them. And that also is me, I'm type A. Sometimes it's really hard because I'm a perfectionist, and sometimes you don't get that perfect work, and you have to go, did they hit the points that I want? Just because it doesn't look pretty or is like not typed the greatest, or what, did they do what they needed to do? So you just have to, for me, one of the biggest things is doing it, figuring out what it was I needed to teach in order for them to be successful, continuing to do project-based learning, and learning to release it. And that is a hard step sometimes, is learning to release it to the students.
Yeah, gotta let them drive. Give them a project, put them in the car. We're not driving. We're just kind of like making sure you're still in the car and that you know where you're going. And it's good. I would even add that it's helpful for us to think of all the checkpoints before we let them get in the car, or we think about where we're going a whole lot before we even show them the car. And that this backwards design, the more years you do it, the more you've really created reasonable places to check in and then give autonomy back. Like have a group come check in with you while other groups are working to that same deadline. And then the nurture that you would really give to really reading and talking to them, like it's, you didn't just blow through it and be like, we're done, next group, but really honoring, the time they put in and the extra effort they did, and always trying to find something to glow and to move, like you did this, so that means you can do even more, and that's so fun with project, because some of the groups are going to come to it quicker and you can push them. Some of the groups are going to kind of delay themselves because of all kinds of reasons, where they just don't, gel, or that they spin their wheels, or they keep starting over. And all those things are about growing. Those are all big time learning moments, because they want it to be quality. So they don't just want to turn in something they don't care about, and so that's kind of what we've been trying to figure out a long time, about once kids get older, how do we get them to continue to care intrinsically, about how their work is. If the grade isn't doing the trick, what else might motivate them? And so I think there are some really cool ways to use project-based learning in that way. So thanks, teachers, for listening. I hope this has been helpful. Get a hold of Miss Kelly, myself, if you need some help with project-based learning. Hope that's okay. But again, we're all, growing in different ways we can help each other. So that's the idea of specific drip. If you want to come on here and talk about something you would like to show other people that you've learned about and you kind of feel comfortable explaining, please do let me know, as we would love to hear lots of voices. We're signing off for today. Thank you, Kansas City. Thank you, Miss Kelly. One more without mute. You just said thank you, but you said it muted.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I wasn't going to let you go out that way. Thanks a lot, Miss Kelly.
Thank you.